On the Lord Hut, hear a hut. Nick. On the Lord Hut, hear a hut. Nick, Nick. On the Ricky Ticky Low while living number one Nickelodeon. Nick, 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 Nick. Nickelodeon. Nick, 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 Nick. Nickelodeon.
4 months in.
Feels like we've done so much more than 4.
It's all this shit we have to watch in preparation to even record.
Right. And 4 months. It's no insignificant amount of time.
Yeah. I mean, that's a third of the year.
And I really, yeah.
This year's flown fucking by.
Yeah. And I suppose the split recording sessions definitely don't lend itself to, feeling small.
Right. Yeah. But I mean, with the amount of content we have to consume, we need 2 weeks at least to get enough to even have a discussion about anything to fuel the reminiscent memory of what is whatever we're talking about. And then we need 2 weeks to record, because usually one of them either gets thrown out or part of it gets thrown out.
It's certainly a possibility, and at this point, a probability.
Yeah.
And it's about this. I have a memory like a steel trap, and it literally just needs one trigger, and it just sends me down. Like I had to work at nights and stuff like that. I have a very difficult time getting all the consumption generally required to do all this quote unquote research. But I just need that one memory.
Yeah.
Especially for these first sections of these episodes, especially with this, what we're considering our format is, it's just talking about the feels.
Mm-hmm.
And that little bit of nostalgia can go a long way.
And I'm the opposite. So I'm, being home, and then but I traditionally really watch other than sports, only watch it at bedtime.
Right.
So it's how many episodes of each show can I cram in 2 weeks, in a 2-3 hour window before I eventually fall asleep.
Mm-hmm.
So I started with all that. I did about 2 or 3 nights of that. Wrapped it up last night with Clarissa Explains It All. I did probably 4, and I think that was all I needed. But I mean,
some of these shows definitely best serve themselves in the memory banks.
I'm grateful that they're there. I'm grateful for Paramount Plus and all streaming apps that you can go back and kind of relive your childhood.
Absolutely.
But the problem is like you said, some of these needed to just stay.
They just don't hold up. They were perfect for the time. They're
right.
Absolutely perfect for the time. But some of them, they're really like I started with Salute Your Shorts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that it doesn't hold up, because it's camp. And camp always holds up.
Batman 66.
Fucking you go back into the annals of history to the progression of summer camp, and it don't fucking change very much. And so Salute Your Shorts is just that, a bunch of kids that don't know each other get dropped off on a school bus and then have to live a fairly rustic life for however long. It's I don't know if it's possible, with the exception of the fashion of the era, for something like Salute Your Shorts to not hold up. But the jokes are cheesy as hell. The production's crazy, like crazy low, and I don't. It's made for kids. It really is. There is a select. And I don't think anybody did it better than Nickelodeon. Did we even mention that that's what we're fucking talking about? I mean, I know it's
but I mean, it's kind of a given in the title,
right? Yeah. By the thumbnail and all that stuff, it'll be very pretty obvious that we're
Yeah.
talking about Nickelodeon, but nobody did it better than Nickelodeon with having they had their, they had the line, whatever it is, the maturity line, and they had plenty of stuff that flew straight under it that no parent in their right mind would sit there and suffer while their kids were watching TV. Case in point, every single time I got yelled at to turn Nickelodeon off by my parents, specifically my mother. But then they also, like later on in the day, in the schedule, they had plenty of stuff that, if you're a parent with a decent sense of humor, they were laughing right along with you, but for entirely different reasons. And Salute Your Shorts, just like a lot of that other daytime programming, was definitely way more kid oriented. And it's like, I haven't got to Hey Dude yet. Hey Dude is something that, like, because when I watched that shit, they all look like adults to me. And I haven't gone back and checked it out yet, because I remember being very on the fence about Hey Dude my entire childhood.
And see, I loved it, and I went back and watched it, and I got through, I think, probably 4 or 5 episodes, and it was like basically every episode was the same.
Yeah,
it's the same formula, very soap opera-y, and it's even filmed like that.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the daytime TV type of shooting they did on those shows and still continue to do, because even Nickelodeon now, the shows that are for tweens and teens are very reminiscent of our time. Cheesy fucking jokes, but same storyline, same format of show. I always found like the easiest shows on Nickelodeon to watch with my mom or my dad were the game shows.
Nickelodeon.
Yes.
Whether it be What Would You Do, Double Dare, Family Double Dare, Nick Arcade, Wild and Crazy Kids was another big one that was easy for everybody to watch because they were outside, especially in the summertime when we were, at home during the day.
Yeah.
Wild and Crazy Kids was the shit. And we all wanted to be on it.
Yeah. Double Dare was always.
That was technically like the first like Nick produced show was Double Dare.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh. And it makes sense.
The pilot was done by another guy, not Mark Summer. It was done by another guy in his basement. They shot it.
No,
which is kind of creepy to have like kids down in some random dude's basement to shoot. Maybe they were like neighborhood kids or something that the parents knew them or something. I don't know.
Let's hope.
Like when I was like looking into shit, I was like, that's a little fucking weird. But I mean, back then, it wasn't as out there as it is today. The weirdness in adults.
A cloud of darkness that it hangs over Nickelodeon.
It's so bad, dude.
A massive, pitch black, dark cloud of fucking evil that hangs over Nickelodeon.
And the fact that none of this shit was ever like proven, nobody really went after anybody or any like. If my kid's on a fucking TV show and they're having to show their feet all the time and shit, like, dude, it's so fucking trashy.
You see
dollar signs and your kids are like just bags of money. It's so fucking terrible.
Well, that's what it is. We're talking about that problem.
Let me just clarify. Allegedly.
I don't even give a shit. Like at this point, like fucking, you know what I mean? I guess that's how we avoid any claims of slander or libel. Allegedly. So allegedly all of this. This is that's the problem, or the problem does not lie solely on the at the feet of the producers, while they are fucking like incorrigible, fucking horrible, terrible people. You have to place some blame on the people that are fucking, like offering up these children. which is their goddamn parents.
Right.
You know, it's like, you know, it's just like the what is it, the documentary, the trophy kids. Shout out to Chris Bell, fucking hometown hero, Poughkeepsie, New York, represent. Anyway, they, like, you know, it's that shit. It's vapid, narcissistic parents fucking living vicariously through their kids who have some monicum of talent. And so like, you know, like it's deplorable all the way around.
Right.
But we got some great entertainment out of it.
Yeah. And just to end that part of the
terrible
shit,
that
part of the show.
To turn it, to steer it away from the darkness,
put a fucking hurricane on top of it.
But just
to say, like,
also to acknowledge the fact that's I just wanted to acknowledge the
right.
fact that Nickelodeon's got some,
and I felt
shit in their closet.
I've been feeling it shifting for the last couple of weeks after watching a bunch of shit. I'm like, this conversation is not going to be all fucking puppies and candy canes. But just to say this, the fact that it didn't end with our generation, that it still continued into our, you know, my children and, you know, the children of our, you know, generation, our kids. It was still happening, and and it still does. I mean, it's a shitty fucking environment to put your kids in.
That's the beauty of the internet.
Yeah. For
all the things that the internet has given us, that we should be like very, 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 very regretful that it was ever invented. It gave us the massive platform to expose. On large scale without being like unfiltered.
Which I mean, honestly, it needs to happen.
Yes, it does. That's it.
That's the one part of cancel culture that I agree with.
Well, it's
if you're a diddler or abuser,
capital C cancel culture TM .jpg
.png.
Yeah, like pre becoming like a tool to, you know, silence and also like promote yourself, especially considering the amount of times it's been used maliciously and fallaciously. That's it. You put it out there. At that point, if it's a matter of making sure everybody has the tools inside themselves to make the right call. You know what I mean? You put this shit out there. Your fucking Weinsteins and your I can't even remember the guy's name, but he played the weird neighbor kid in Better Off Dead.
Yeah,
the feet guy.
Yeah.
You put it out there. You let these people know. You let people know. Be like, this is what your fucking kids like. You want to send your kids to Hollywood? You want to get them on Nickelodeon? This is what's going to be there.
Yep. Disney Channel too. I mean, I haven't heard as much about Disney Channel, but
Disney's got a much better PR department.
Yeah, they got the money behind it.
Exactly.
They got all the money in the world.
But there's been plenty. Just look at what happens.
Yeah.
Just look at what happens when the Disney Channel kids grow up. Shia LaBeouf.
Allegedly.
Ain't nothing alleged about that. That guy's out of his fucking mind.
That guy's a fucking wacko.
But anyway.
Yeah, back to the puppies and candy canes now.
Regardless of that, know that it exists. At that point, it's a matter of separating the art from the artist. And if you somehow manage to consume this stuff without somehow filling the coffers of the horrible people that did it, all the power to you.
Let me ask you a question. Let's kick it off. Let's steer the ship back around. What was your first memory of Nickelodeon?
Honestly, I'd say probably You Can't Do That on Television.
Yeah.
That was the first Nick produced show, if I'm not mistaken. Like that was it, like 79.
I think, but at first they bought it because at first I think it started in Canada.
Did it? Okay.
I think.
Well, and strike that shit from the record. I remember that, and
I think eventually it was.
I feel like that was like the
Nickelodeon.
first show that aired on Nickelodeon.
Yes.
Was you can't do that
was
on
that,
television.
and then there was a puppet show. I forget what that one was called.
And
well, it was whatever Nickelodeon was called before. It was actually Nickelodeon. It was like it was something. It started with a P, I think. I don't know.
I don't know.
Pinwheel spinning around. Look through my pinwheel and see what I found.
All I know is that was the first time I remember. Like it's like so. I grew up in the beginning of my life. It was like a
The beginning of time.
Yeah, it was 13 channels.
Yeah,
so that's 10 more than when my parents grew up, and I don't remember how we got Nickelodeon, because it certainly wasn't on that 13 channels in that same living room on that same cabinet TV that I talked about in the baseball episode. That was when I was the first time. And I remember channel 31 on the cable box. I don't know
you guys
how
have
my
a
father,
black box?
Yeah. Well, I mean, back in the day, all the cable boxes.
Well,
were
I
black
mean,
box.
you know,
like
the special.
Yeah, we had one later.
Yeah.
We had one later. But yeah, on the legitimate black box, it was channel 31. And whenever I put it on, there was almost a guarantee that at some point in the next 25 minutes, my mother would peek her head around the door and just yell at me to turn it off.
Because it was shit, or she just didn't think you were learning anything from it? What do you think the reasoning behind it was? Or it was just fucking annoying?
Probably annoying.
Yeah.
And like I don't know. My mother had very specific ideas about what children, and specifically her child, should be doing with her time, and watching Nickelodeon was not it. And like, yeah, she was very. I remember she even later on in life, it admitted that like she's not cool with the way that the world has changed. She was perfectly happy with the way that she was raised in the fucking 60s. So
and that's that Wonder Years mentality.
Yeah,
that we've talked about several times. That
and she
I think a lot of parents had.
Yeah, she had she was like Kevin's dad. Yeah, like, and my dad was a clown. So
yeah,
like it was like she was the disciplinarian, and being a Marine, she was good at it.
Yeah.
Sear. Yeah, it was watching. I remember watching. It was one of the barf segments, if you recall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching one of the barf segments, and my mother, she was like, "What are you watching? Turn this off now." And this was that was probably somewhere. It was probably like 89, somewhere in there.
Yeah,
and yeah, that was easily my first.
Yeah, I mean, I was 2, but at that same time, I was already watching it because my sister was 3 years older than me. So even though I was probably too young to be watching a lot of it shit or anything, I know that I was watching it because I remember when Hey Dude started and Salute Your Shorts, but that was early 90s, 90, 91, but still 3, 4 to have a vivid memory of sitting. Yeah. And this well, no, because this is after my parents divorced. So I was 4. So yeah, 91. So yeah, when Hey Dude started, I think. But I remember we lived in an apartment because my dad's dad owned the house that we lived in prior when they were still together. So once my parents divorced, my grandpa was like, that's it. See ya. So and nothing against my mom, they were fine and they continued to be close even after they divorced. But anyways, this is very healing right now. But we had an apartment, and I remember we lived on the bottom floor. I remember it was B3 was the apartment. And I remember like Hey Dude starting and Salute Your Shorts and all that stuff. And like we had a very small living room. I mean, it was a decent sized apartment, especially for the 90s, but small living room. I remember the sliding glass door, like looking out, and we had like a wooded area, foresty area behind us. And that's like where the kids would like go and play and be fucking little shits and hide and seek and all that. And I more than once took a dump in those woods. But I remember sitting there and like the the apartment-y blinds, the white like long fucking blinds that you run up and down with the fucking little adjusty dealy.
Yep.
But yes, sitting there and fucking just watching fucking Nickelodeon all the time. And like I've said before, when my mom and dad divorced, we didn't have, a parent in the house at all times. And back then it wasn't as wild as it is now to think about leaving young kids at home, because I mean, you usually had a neighbor that would watch and or whatever, maybe, a friend across the way. Yeah. Somebody always keeping an eye when they knew that, nobody was home. And it was a sketchy area, but like we always felt safe. I never once thought like I was going to get kidnapped or murdered, but we didn't think that when we were kids. It's different than it is now.
No, and it also, not for nothing, in my personal experience, a lot of the times, if you're a part of the sketchy neighborhood, you're good.
Yeah. Nobody's coming in there to fucking do anything because they're like,
I mean,
they don't got nothing either.
I mean, if you're a part of the sketchy neighborhood, everybody in that sketchy neighborhood looks out for everybody else in that sketchy neighborhood.
And nobody's trying to break into anybody's house because nobody's got anything.
Nobody's got anything, and everybody knows who the fuck they are.
I mean, unless you want our TV, which I mean, I guess, maybe you don't have one. But I mean, dude, Nickelodeon and shit like that, just, it helped. Like, you kind of forgot where you lived. You kind of forgot that, your parents weren't around.
Yeah. And
even when they were, I mean, we still watched it. And, like you were saying, your mom coming in and telling you to turn it off. I remember like watching Double Dare or whatever when they do the physical challenge and like, at the end when you got to go up in the nose and like go through all the slime boogers and shit to get the flag. I remember my mom going like, what the fuck is this? It's so stupid. Why are you watching this shit?
Yeah.
Like, put something else on. And she'd be like, let's watch Days of Our Lives. I'm like, oh God, I'm going to my fucking room.
Yeah. It's like I
drug that on. Sorry.
No, it's fine. And it ultimately, what I think it is when it comes to the relationship of parents and fucking Nickelodeon, especially back in the 90s.
Parents just don't understand.
Exactly.
Nickelodeon, waiting for you every day. Nickelodeon.
They just don't get it. They like, and not like like, I don't even know how to word it, but it's just not their humor. It's not their era of humor.
Well, and I can compare it to my kids now. Everything's YouTube. We don't have cable. We don't have satellite. What's the point? Everything, even me, I watch YouTube nonstop, podcasts or, certain channels that like kind of like what we do. But I don't get the kid side of it. I don't get the humor in the kid side of it. The gamers and stuff and the kids that, don't do this after 3 a.m. or so-and-so is going to, come get you in the night. Like, why are you watching that? One, how is that entertaining? I'd be terrified. But I mean, we grew up with like Jason and Freddy and Michael Myers.
We had our own. We just didn't watch. We had scary stories to tell in the dark. We didn't have YouTube.
We had Are You Afraid of the Dark? Speaking of
Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Dude, and that show is still fucking creepy.
Yep. The fucking clown doll in the intro still gets me.
No,
still gets me every time.
I can tell you this much, and I'm sure we'll fucking get to it at some point because I'm sure like October we'll do horror shit.
Yep.
But fucking Chucky, nope. I didn't. I don't do dolls, and I didn't do clowns. Clowns, I'm whatever now. Like, it's fine. But back then, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Pennywise, Tim Curry is the original Pennywise.
Yes.
That was it, dude. And I love Tim Curry. I did then, but
I will tell you, because it fit. Like I feel like I don't know what the October show is gonna look like.
It's gonna be a mess because there's so much I want to do.
Dude, I mean, like, look, I mean, I've got the horror sticker,
Yeah,
like on, it's
So
everywhere.
classic.
It's on this fucking vest, like multiple times in different forms. Like, it's huge. So like I don't know what we're gonna be like. I don't know what it's gonna look like. It probably will be a mess. It'll be like the most unwatchable episode of this show because it's too much.
yeah,
And if we can't rein it in, it's gonna be bad.
yeah.
So I'll tell you this story now. It's around this time, and it includes, because I don't know how many.
Well, and this
actually,
all kind of goes with Are You
It
Afraid
does.
of the Dark? That's kind of like where I was steering it.
And this is what made Are You Afraid of the Dark so scary to me, especially the opening scene. And because I feel like, especially in the very beginning of our tenure with this show, a lot of my recollections and reminiscing and all that stuff is going to come back to that living room and that TV in that house pre-1992, probably pre-1991, even maybe 1990. I don't know, because that was when we had this big room with a fireplace and stuff like that. Was our living room for the longest time, and that's where that cabinet TV was. I think when that cabinet TV died, we left it there.
Yeah,
and then we moved it. We got a new
bozo.
TV and put it in what became the living room later. And I think it had a lot more to do with the ability to heat it, because that original one was huge. So anyway, when it was airing, because those who may not know, it was originally a TV miniseries. The Tim Curry It was a TV miniseries. It was not a movie. And that's why it's so fucking long when you watch it now. And I couldn't sleep. And I always tried to sneak like 5 more minutes, because 5 minutes was a lot when you were south of 8 years old.
And you also thought 5 minutes, maybe they'll forget and I can stretch this shit out.
It could be. Like, it could be. I
honestly
like
see it.
I remember when I was doing the 5 more minutes gag, which it seems like a gag now.
Yeah.
Because it's so ridiculous. That
What's
5 minutes is a blink of an eye now.
Yeah.
But like when your mother would call you in from whatever you were doing, playing with your friends outside, she's like, "All right, it's time for dinner." She's like, 5 more minutes. And if she acquiesced, that was such a victory that you spent 4 of those minutes celebrating. And then she called you like, "That's it, 5 minutes is up." And you're like, "Fuck." So yeah, I'd try to eke out 5 more minutes of like hang time, or like watching adult TV with my father, because after a certain time, that was it. It was like pretty much, if you're done, TV was done at 8 o'clock. That was grown-up time. So my father's watching it and I can't sleep, so I go out to try and eke out another 5 minutes of hang time with my old man, and he's watching it. And he's just like, "No, absolutely not. You're not watching this." And I'm like, "Come on, it's not bad. It's not scary. It's just a bunch of fucking kids." And then it gets to the scene. It's the scene where they're looking at the photo book. And it comes out of that book. And I just fucking like scream, like blood curdling scream, run into my bed. And then I had like progressing nightmares for 7 years about it, Pennywise the Clown.
Did your dad give you the old "I told you so"?
He laughed his ass off.
Yeah,
like
it's either I told you.
Yeah, when I started screaming and I ran into the other room, you could just hear him fucking chuckling like an idiot. And my mother was just like, "Tom!" Like, he's just like, I told him. Like, what else am I gonna do? So it was I mean, it was what it was.
But I mean, getting to watch TV with the old man is always like That's the goal.
But I digress. That kicked off. Actually, no, that's cemented because I saw Killer Clowns from Outer Space when I was like 4.
Oh fuck it. It's still
And that ruined me.
I mean, it's so cheesy, but it's so good.
That ruined me on clowns in the beginning.
I thought it was a kids movie when I was a kid until it got to the end.
Yeah.
Because they were so fucking silly.
And then so yeah, I was just not big on clowns. And then I loved Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Mm-hmm.
Kids love, like they hate it, but they love it.
They're obsessed with it.
Like the
scary idea
shit.
of being scared.
Kids are, it's like constantly like, maybe this time when I touch the stove, it won't burn me.
Right.
You know, like
because once or twice wasn't enough.
Like kids are insane. They really are. And I love them for it. And
they say the wildest things.
The adventure, like the adventurousness of it. Like I'm gonna, like this time, like one day I'm going to attempt this thing that kicked the shit out of me, and it's not gonna kick the shit out of me. And at that moment, I will, you know, stand triumphant in the face of my fears. And then, but every, you know, like, you know, hundreds of times you just sit there and you look at something that's absolutely terrifying and you just fucking piss yourself. And yeah, the opening sequence, like it was always every time, like it would start. Are You Afraid of the Dark would start, and it'd get to that point, and I knew it was coming, and I peeked through my fingers. I'm like, oh god, here it comes.
Yeah, I remember clown. The opening. I'm like, just hit that fucking match. Just hit that match. Because like once you got through the opening, you were okay for a little bit. You got the couch.
Except for the Zebo the Clown episode.
Yeah.
That one. No. Nay, I say. Nay. Fucking, like, clowns still creep me out. But I'm a lot more violent now.
Like, you fuck a clown up if they get too close.
I'm a lot more violent now. Yeah. And I have zero doubts in my mind that it's like, come at me, bro.
They don't, like I said, they don't bother me as much now, but I also don't like seek them out. Like, I haven't been to the circus since I was like 6 years old, nor do I just desire to go. My kids don't my kids ain't go. They're like, we'd rather watch YouTube. They play video games. We're not going to the fucking circus. That's stupid.
Fuck off with your old people shit.
Yeah, right. But yeah, I mean, dude, I couldn't even pinpoint one episode that just fucking creeped me out. Like, I don't do ghosts, so anything involving like a ghost or a dead person's story, just still to this day, like I can't do it. Like I've said before on other stuff, Amanda's always tried to get me to watch Supernatural, and I do it. And most of them are silly and goofy. Like, I don't mind them, but like if it's a ghost thing, I'm not a big fan. I can't do that shit. I don't know what it is. It's like the terrifying unknown, and like I won't sleep. It's impossible for me. Like, I mean, eventually I'll fall asleep, but the idea of laying there and like, what if I roll over? Is there going to be like a ghost like at the foot of the bed fucking staring at me when I'm not looking? Or I don't know. Like, and it's always like they're hovering over you while you sleep and shit. That idea is just fucking terrifying. So that show, when I was a kid, could go fuck itself, but I still watched it because it was interesting. And I thought the idea of these kids, like, where are these kids' parents? You know what I mean? Like, they're just out in the fucking woods at night.
Yeah, the fucking Midnight Society.
Starting like, fires and shit. I'm like,
well,
fuck Smokey the Bear at?
It is Canada.
That's true.
Up until about like 15, 20 years ago, Canada was just a bunch of savages, man.
Yeah, they're wild out there. And part of them speak French. Not that there's anything wrong with it, they speak French. I'm guessing that it was like either a Toronto or Vancouver based production. Yeah. But I like to imagine that the people that Are You Afraid of the Dark is about is like Alberta residents. Yeah.
So like bush people, like, I that's not an insult. Like the people of Alberta
It's
generally
just a
tend to
funny
be
statement.
the most like, I don't know, they're like the rednecks of Canada, and that's a compliment. Like, they're the ones I generally find they're the ones that I can relate to the most. So yeah, you never know. Maybe so while the parents of these kids are all out having a bush party of their own, like they the kids fuck off because they're not allowed. They don't,
Yeah, maybe their
like,
their parents are in a separate part of the woods, like
2 campsites over.
yeah,
Molsons and Mooseheads.
yeah,
Out the
Club.
ass.
I don't know if Canadians actually drink Canadian Club. What do you think?
Probably not.
Yeah.
I imagine Canadian Club in Canada is probably like Evan Williams here.
It's American Club.
It's like Zachariah Harris. I won't. Yeah, apparently I'm not allowed to compare Evan Williams with like just horrible rot gut anymore because they changed their formula.
Yeah.
I haven't tried it yet.
I was never a big Evan Williams guy.
Well, the last time I had it,
nappy.
The last time I had it, I was convinced that it liquefied my insides.
Yeah. I haven't had it in, I would say, probably 7 years.
Yeah, I heard very recently that they changed their formula and made
maybe
it
it's better now.
I kind of want to try.
The last time I had it, I remember waking up with a fucking bad hangover.
I just I did horrible things to a toilet that day.
Oof.
And I'm a little gun shy. I'm not gonna lie to you, but I hear it's better.
Stick with what you know.
Anyway.
Be-doo, 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 bop, dee-bop, Nickelodeon, be-doo, be-doo, bop, dee-bop, Nickelodeon, yeah.
So, yeah, Are You Afraid of the Dark? I think it was like, and it's perfect too. I know they brought it back, and I haven't watched any of it. And then because they did, I think they. Wait, no, it was like, yeah, they put a whole. It was like a whole strung together narrative that they did, and I don't know why.
On the new one you're talking about?
Yeah. It was this whole series was like one
continuous story
about the kids who were telling the stories.
Oh, that's dumb. I don't want that.
It was like they were telling the stories, like the Midnight Society that gathered, and they were telling the stories, and then one person's story started coming true, and it was a weird carnival, and it was just they missed the mark. That's one of the things. If you ever get into supernatural, like if you ever get over the ghost thing and you like really give it a go, it's one of my favorite shows of all time.
I'm in season 6, but I do it in chunks. Like I'll take 2 months off and then I'll watch 10 episodes. Yeah. Or I'll watch a whole season.
I love it. I love the overarching narrative and of the entire series. Sure. And but there's especially, and you'll start to see it once you get into seasons like 7, 8, and 9. They do the narrative becomes more important. The overall narrative becomes more important, and they do a lot less what they refer to as Monster of the Week.
Right.
First season, almost entirely Monster of the Week.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. And then it's when like a lot of people fell off when they started doing the overall narrative. The Monster of the Week thing was the bread and butter of Are You Afraid of the Dark? And I think Supernatural did the Monster of the Week so good that almost nobody could compare now.
So you think even that kind of had a hand in the new Are You Afraid of the Dark?
I mean, I think I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if Supernatural was a deciding factor in the decision to redo Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah,
because of its popularity. Even though the people who made the remake of Are You Afraid of the Dark very clearly had no fucking idea what made Supernatural so popular.
Right.
And it just missed. it just missed like a fucking like whiffed completely. Like it was not good.
Did you ever happen to catch the new version of All That?
No,
Yeah, they redid that too.
didn't know that happened.
Yeah,
That's
I didn't
ugh.
see any of that either. But like I said, I opened with that and the original, not
okay
not
with
the
the
new
I
one.
was
Yeah,
just like,
yeah. No, I'm not watching the new one because I mean, if I want to see sketch comedy now, I'm gonna watch SNL or even a late night, talking head that can do sketches better than a group of teenagers, or watch the original All That because it's still funny.
yeah.
Um,
They got
the characters and the concepts that they had in those sketches are fucking hilarious.
they killed it. They absolutely killed it. And I don't like, and it's one of those, like it's not to, I'm gonna just ring the darkness bell one more time.
Sure, go ahead.
But like that, like the like the darkness from whence that all that shit was born, as far as the people in charge.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's no surprise that they were the like that shit was as funny as it was.
Yeah.
And I still like, I mean, I still reference that shit all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Like like as cheesy as it was, like it's very kid friendly, especially the All That years. Like you go back to the You Can't Do That on Television. It was very much like, I don't even know what the hell they were thinking. They put a lot of that together.
Yeah.
It was a lot of like, it was just dick and fart jokes, but like I don't kind of
That's kind of what we're all about
tone
though.
for sure. And it'll never not be funny.
Yeah.
Like I will never be a detractor from dick and fart jokes.
Yeah.
But like like all that, for especially considering like compared to now, all that was edgy as fuck.
Mm-hmm. And it was very in the same vein as like in Living Color.
Yeah.
It was more edgy than SNL at the time. Even for like an adult to watch, I feel like they would be more like, oh my god, I can't believe these kids are doing this. But also that, I mean, they had different musical guests and all that shit, and it was more of the time.
Speaking of all that and SNL, Kenan Thompson.
Yeah. And he was on both shows forever, and it's still on SNL. But he's great. He's still funny as fuck.
Yeah.
He is literally the best part of SNL.
I have no doubt. I have not watched SNL in 20 years, and I have no intention of
really
going back to it.
There have been a few things that came
like
out.
The Feral era. The Feral era was the last.
Was the end. Yeah.
Was the last one that I gave even a remote shit about.
That was the last like elite time.
Yeah. Now I don't know. I just don't know. I don't care.
Yeah. But with all that, like the characters like Bag and Sag and Barry was always one of my favorites. Like I just thought that the idea of this guy having all of these different things in his pants, like in any situation, he had what would fix it or not fix it in his pants. Ed from Good Burger, which ended up being a movie, which is crazy. That shows you very SNL mirrored, but with teenagers or kids or whatever. But that movie is still funny.
Yeah. Oh, I was gonna say that like Nickelodeon knew what they were doing and Lorne Michaels didn't, but that's a total fucking lie. Especially that was the years of like Wayne's World and stuff like that. Like it was, I don't know, kind of. My guess would be that Nickelodeon saw that you could take a very popular sketch character and spin a yarn around them. And Good Burger was
those orange fucking VHS cassettes, the Nickelodeon ones.
Fucking A, man. I held on. I think I had Ren and Stimpy Volume 1, and I held on to that thing for dear life. That sleeve was like I could not bring myself to get rid of the sleeve. So it just kind of like held it
starting to turn into sawdust.
Yeah, it was like it got a lot of play.
Yeah.
It was that neon orange, man. Like,
yeah, so
and
cool.
I'll tell you what, as a Flyers fan, like it fits. Fits in the history of
I remember my sister had like Harriet the Spy and like the clamshell case, and like I would get like the Rugrats one because Rugrats, that was one of the first animated shows that wasn't fucking Disney to really like make people grab onto it. Rugrats,
Oh, yeah.
Doug, Rocco's Modern Life, all that shit. I mean, that
Ren and
stuff.
Stimpy.
Ren and Stimpy's. I put Ren and Stimpy like in that. It's more like adult.
Yeah.
Like it was like
they didn't realize it at the time, though.
Yeah, they didn't realize it until later. But like it was very Beavis and Butthead. Like these guys are so fucking, or this cat and dog or whatever, they're so fucking stupid.
Yeah.
That they're funny. And that was that to me, like, even though we were already like watching Beavis and Butthead and we shouldn't have been, but and even Beavis and Butthead is tame compared to a lot of the shit the kids watch now. But Beavis and Butthead and Ren and Stimpy kind of went hand in hand. Like you could watch both and find the humor in both. And
considering MTV is owned by Viacom,
when
Ren and Stimpy went off the air, it got aired on fucking late night on MTV. So it like it,
and even later MTV2. I think at one point on MTV2 they were back to back.
Yes, they were. We're gonna need to pause for a brief station identification so I can go relieve myself.
Do you or someone you know suffer from mesothelioma?
Nickelodeon. I am returned.
Okay.
And thinking regarding, I don't know, the quality of sketch comedy in that era and all that, I think the most topical thing, as far as like going back, and for somebody our age, it could still be humorous. I think the most topical thing they did, because didn't they have that one girl who's like did a really funny Ross Perot impression?
Yeah.
Like I don't think it wasn't Amanda Bynes.
No,
the other small one.
The other small one before, or well, she was still on when Amanda Bynes came on, but she was like
the
OG. A little older. Yeah. But yeah, she did an incredible job at Ross Perot. She did a lot of funny stuff.
I mean, they all did.
Yeah.
I don't think there was a single.
There wasn't a dud in the bunch.
No.
Josh Server, who did like the big eared guy.
Yep.
And he had a lot. Keenan and Kel fucking ran that fucking show.
Yeah.
And then then they got their own show on top of that, which is also equally as good, if not funnier. And that show is still fucking funny. Randy and Mandy, the chocolate cooking show.
Yeah, Jesus,
was ridiculous. Keenan as Pierre Escargot. He was in the tub with the fucking raincoat on and the fucking hat. And those, I mean, they're so stupid.
Yeah.
But they're so fun. Even now, like I said, go back and watch it. Some of those fucking skits with him as Pierre Escargot are so fucking funny.
And I can't remember what movie it was. And it may have been, I think she may have been playing herself. I'm almost inclined to think it was an episode of like Entourage or something, where they're trying to score some drugs, and the only person that they can find that has them is Lori Beth Dimberg.
Oh, that was they
meet her in a hot tub someplace.
Yeah, it was a movie. Was that This Is the End?
No.
Okay.
No, because it was. I
gotta look it up now because I know exactly what you're talking about, and it was fucking hilarious.
Yeah, and it's any kind of all that callback to me is it's just gold. Like it really is. Like it brings back the memories, and then like it's the funny thing is like Lori Beth Dimberg hasn't aged a day.
No, she looks like the same.
She looks like she got frozen in time.
A lot of them still look the same.
Except for Amanda.
Well, yeah. But I mean,
she's up there with old Shia. Shia LaBeouf.
Maybe it was a show. She was in Dodgeball, but that wasn't it.
Oh, that's right. She was the cheerleader that crushed.
Was it Workaholics?
maybe
because it says as herself, and that would
Yeah.
make sense with the drug thing.
probably then.
Yeah,
But yeah, like I couldn't remember what the hell it was. But yeah,
because I remember it happening, and I watched that show religiously and still love it. And they have an excellent podcast, by the way.
I did not know that.
Yes,
give that a shot.
It's great. Yeah,
could use a little more joy in my life.
Yeah, if you like watching podcasts, it's definitely the way to go with that one because they're obviously their facial reactions to things. They sing a lot, and actually, Adam's wedding, they had his bachelor party like 2 hours from me on the Lake of the Ozarks. And I was like, holy shit, I wish I was watching the show at the time because I would have went up there.
Yeah.
Tried to join in the fun, But anyways, yeah. So I remember that, and it made me fucking laugh because out of all the people in the world to have in the spot like that, you get
Lori Beth Dinberg.
Yeah. And her vital informations for everyday life, that shit is hilarious. Her's the librarian. Holy shit. Dude, that lineup of Snick was fucking out of this world. I mean, it was crazy time to be a teenager. And it's funny because like
I wasn't even a teenager, man.
Like, not even. We were kids.
Like 10.
Yeah. But I mean, we would come home or be inside from being outside, and then that would start like right away, usually like right when the sun went down.
Yeah.
Street lights came on, we came in, and Snick it was.
It was
because I want to say it started with all that at that time, not the original run, because the original run, Clarissa, I think, kicked it off. But I want to say it was all that, Kenan and Kel, something else, and then Are You Afraid of the Dark ended it. And even the original, I think, Are You Afraid of the Dark ended it, because it was Clarissa, Ren and Stimpy.
Yeah. Are You Afraid of the Dark had to end it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. And it had to be dark outside. But
dark outside, and it also had to you had to ensure that if any of your viewers were going to go to bed early, that get them the fuck out of there, so you don't get a bevy of parents like fan or hate mail, literal snail hate mail.
Yeah, and
you gave my kid a complex.
Let's see. I remember there'd be like specials, like especially like Halloween, like Aro Monsters would come on later on Snick. Which that's another one of those animated ones that I fucking worshipped.
Yeah.
And they had the fucking game on Super Nintendo. That was cool.
The thing, one of the things about it, especially with Snick too, is like that had to be. I mean, this is the lack of actual research, just watching shit.
Yeah.
But the lack of actual research. But it seems like, I mean, it was certainly my first experience with any kind of child or like children oriented late night programming.
Yeah.
And now, mind you, late night programming for a child means it ended at fucking 9.
Right.
But still, it was like, and it because it's all kids other than having fun with their kid, with their buddies or friends or whatever. All kids want is to be grown up. And blocking, because on Sunday through Friday after 8 o'clock was Nick at Night, and then it was all that old shit, and it's like one of the as much as kids want to be older, they hate old shit.
Are you afraid to Snick? Don't be.
I didn't mind it, dude.
Well, you're an old man.
That's true.
You're an old man and a much younger man.
But let's talk about that for a second. Nick at Night, dude. Fucking Mr. Ed.
Yep.
The Munsters.
Yep. But everything in black and white.
Dude, Mr. Ed was the shit, though.
Yeah.
Because I was like, how is this show so old and they got that fucking horse talking and shit?
Yeah, it was like I will say, like, I certainly don't have as much to talk about with Nick at Night, because when I was a kid, I hated
now it's the shit we watched when we were kids.
Yeah. But at the same, like, I didn't appreciate it yet. Like, it was old. It was old.
You weren't a
jokes.
Mr. Ed guy.
Yeah, old people, old jokes, or whatever. I appreciate it now. Like, I'll sit there and watch clips. I won't watch whole episodes because I ain't got time for that shit. But
ain't nobody got time for that.
No. But the importance of Snick was nuts, and when all that hit, like when all that came out, like that was it. Like,
dude, and we looked forward to that shit all fucking week too.
Yeah. Strap a rocket to it, and it was like it was not something I got together and watched with my friends. But if I was not fortunate enough to spend the night at a friend's house on a weekend, Snick was like a consolation.
Well,
and a valid consolation, not just like, well, at least I've got this. It's like, well, I can't go hang out with my friends tonight, but I get to watch Snick, so it ain't all that bad,
right? And that was one of those things, though. If you didn't have a friend over, if you didn't go to a friend's house, you would watch and you would like be thinking about it all day because you knew you weren't going anywhere.
Yeah.
And you're like, man, it'd be cool if mom and dad let me get a pizza.
Yep.
Let me get a pizza on Saturday night. You're not letting me go over to my friend's house. You're not letting me have a friend over. Let me get pizza and watch Snick.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe have a fucking Diet Pepsi. For me. Even then. I was like, fucking get a Diet Pepsi. I'm happy.
Yeah.
But
I'm trying to remember the other.
But I mean, even when I would stay at a friend's house, I mean, it was so big that all of my friends watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like even if we were like doing something, like we would probably stop or have it on in the background, at least that way we could talk to the other kids about it, the next day or the next week at school. I feel like it was always on.
Yeah.
But I mean, you're doing other shit and you're doing shit together, so you're not really paying attention.
It was, and this could very well be just the difference, the slight difference in age between you and myself. So almost everybody else in that neighborhood from the same, like, of the same generation as like me and my parents. So like the people of my, like, that had kids my age, were all wildly successful in whatever the hell it was that they were doing.
Right.
So they all had cable proper.
Right.
So whenever I went over to a friend's house, we had like one eye on the doorway and the other eye on like HBO late night.
Yow. Yeah, that came later. I was
when cable. So given the cable, we weren't watching Snick while we were at our friend's house, unless they had one of them cool TVs where they had the last button.
Oh yeah, fuck.
So yeah, we'd have the fucking we'd have
best,
Nickelodeon. Man. We'd have Nickelodeon on the last button, and then like HBO or Showtime on the TV.
Get away with a lot.
So yeah, then. we were just little pervs.
Yeah,
no surprise.
Little deviants.
So yeah, that was not something that when we were all together at somebody else's house other than mine. Yeah, we didn't give a single shit about Nickelodeon.
You were trying to see a nipple.
Goddamn right. Just one.
Just give me one nipple.
Just give me a half.
Get you through the next month. You just think about that one tit you saw.
To be young again. But anyway, it was like, I don't know. It really was. It was like for anybody who's it's one thing, we're horrible at pushing our shirts. Anybody that swings over to mudamerch.com to pick up a Who Pops Your Culture
is that the proper link? mudamerch.com.
Yeah, it'll redirect to the TeePublic.
Okay, well, I'll start tagging that then, because when I type it in, it's just whatever. But I'd much rather use that link than.
Yeah, mudamerch.com to pick up a Who Pops Your Culture t-shirt, for which we would be very appreciative.
Yes.
There's another one. It's an old screenshot of a WPIX card, and it's called The Babysitter. It's called The Babysitter. and because that's what it was.
Yeah.
Our era was, the TV was the babysitter. I mean, it's not too terribly different now, but you actually had to just sit there in front of a TV. You didn't have it in your pocket.
Right.
But Nickelodeon really kind of was like, it was like, that was like for everything else. The WPIX, that was the local station. So it wasn't just movies. That's where the news would air and stuff like that. So like there were certain times of day that channel was unwatchable for anybody under the age of 60. And Nickelodeon was just all kids all day. And I will say there was certainly a time when they really started to steer their especially in the morning, and then it kept creeping later and later in the day.
Nick Jr.
hated it. Nick Jr. and all those like the really early development shows that just you're like, what do I do now?
Which I mean, that started kind of on the tail end of me enjoying that kind of programming.
Yes,
even me.
Right.
So I get what you're saying, but like there were some like what was it? Allegra's Window, Gullah Gullah's Island. I remember watching
Eureka's Castle.
The very, very beginning of Blue's Clues, like very beginning. And I think most of that was because I had a younger sister, because I think that would have been out of my wheelhouse. But I mean, I kind of always had, either a younger sister or a child around that I've kind of always kind of known at least what was going on with Nick Jr. Because like obviously like with my kids, especially little Tommy, fucking bubble guppies and all that shit. But even before that, it's like Ni Hao Kai Lan, all this other different Dora the Explorer, SpongeBob. I mean,
that's all that shit came well after. Like my little brother was 6 years younger than me, so I like all that. The Allegra's Window, Gullah Gullah's Island, Eureka's Castle, all those, they were on. I knew what that was. After that, once he grew out of that, then it was over. And by that time I was out. I was in high school.
And my little sister's 6 years younger than me, so that kind of makes sense. But like I said, I always knew what was going on. But SpongeBob was a big one, and I feel like we would be doing a disservice if we didn't at least touch on it for a second. That was one that even in my teens, when I was, you throw a fucking SpongeBob marathon on the summertime. Come on, we're watching that shit. Big ass bowl of cereal and like one of those steel fucking old things you used to.
The mixing bowl, a giant mixing bowl.
The mixing bowl you'd put popcorn in, because you didn't have like a proper popcorn bowl, at least in my house, and fill it with cereal, use half a fucking gallon of milk, and you're just like, whoa. You
get to it, especially, I mean, like that's it. When you are altered, when you look at a regular bowl of cereal, you're just like, this
enough. Ain't gonna be enough. Just pour the milk in the box.
You're like, I need to get at least half of this box of cereal in some kind of receptacle.
I need it in me.
Like, I need
it from the box in milk into me.
The amount of time that it's going to take to pour an entire like what is going to amount to like 3 or 4 bowls of cereal.
I'm not getting up that many times.
No. That's time wasted. That's time wasted. We need to up the efficiency game here.
Well, especially when you're older, because you don't know if your legs are going to continue to work. Either.
Of course, I'm gonna need that fucking popcorn bowl, and I'm gonna need it stat.
Yeah. And it's always a child cereal too.
Like. Like SpongeBob, after a certain age, you can't watch that sober.
Yeah, no.
Like it's a silly show that requires no brain power to consume. And actually, it's almost like it's more of a requirement that you shut off. You just shut your whatever cortex off.
Yeah, you can't overthink that show. You'll make yourself fucking nuts. But yeah, I would say I mean, obviously, I don't partake in that anymore, and not that there's anything wrong with partaking in that, because especially certain places where it's completely illegal, I say go for it. It's
Mhm.
better than drinking yourself to death. But I would say, knowing that I haven't done it at least since my kids have been around,
Mhm.
like you kind of need it, because SpongeBob's voice bit
Yep.
annoying.
Yep.
His laugh makes me want to run my head through a fucking wall now.
Yeah.
But I think that's also like 20 years plus of hearing that fucking laugh probably make you nuts.
Yeah. And I want to words. SpongeBob is kind of almost to kind of bring it back to just impact. Like I feel like if it wasn't for SpongeBob, Nickelodeon probably would have died.
Oh yeah, that
Like
show really fucking brought that shit back. The merchandising and shit for that show.
Oh yeah.
Fuck.
I don't think there was another. I think they'd at the very least they had fallen into, or not fallen into obscurity, but they weren't putting out anything that was crossing my radar as an older person at that time. And
because everything that we were watching had already ended. Like when that show started, they were doing like Rugrats all grown up and shit, and I wasn't watching that trash.
There was there's nothing undeniable.
Yeah, like
you could not deny SpongeBob.
No
matter how hard you tried,
it would be a part of it.
I mean just like culturally.
Yeah,
like in the world,
knew about it.
It had transcended the channel of Nickelodeon and had fucking found itself in the ether. You couldn't get away from it. It wasn't even just like the walking around and seeing kids wearing t-shirts and stuff like that. The song was in your head.
Mm-hmm.
Like you knew the theme song, even if you've never seen an episode.
Right.
Like it was, it added, it is
on ice cream, again, on ice cream
strap a rocket to it. You know what I mean? It's in the goddamn stratosphere now.
Yeah.
And it brought it back, and I don't, as much as, because I've never been good, I didn't give a shit when I was in high school and stuff like that, but I've never been good at being high.
Yeah,
it's not a thing I do. I can't watch it. Yeah. Like we said, you got to be altered. You got to be a certain kind of altered. I imagine if you're on psychedelics, it could be cool too, or terrifying.
I would be scared.
Yeah. But it kept Nickelodeon alive, and I for that I'm pretty goddamn grateful.
Yeah,
because if it wasn't, I mean, who knows if Nickelodeon died. Would we have Paramount Plus? Would they have even included the shit that we loved if SpongeBob didn't rocket Nickelodeon?
SpongeBob, the true star of the show? Fuck.
No, you're right, because one of the first day Paramount Plus was out, there was a new SpongeBob movie out.
Yeah,
that was kind of like the pioneer of that streaming service, was that new SpongeBob movie. And I literally signed up because my kids asked me to get it because they wanted to see the new SpongeBob movie.
Yeah. And as ridiculous and unwatchable as SpongeBob is to me,
yeah.
Will I suffer that the giant square bastard or tiny square bastard, depending on your perspective, so I can watch old Ninja Turtles and Ren and Stimpy and Angry Beavers?
Oh, Angry Beavers. That's a good one.
That was another one that I used to love, especially do you remember?
I remember.
Do you remember the Up All Night episode
of Angry Beavers?
Of Angry Beavers, they had challenged themselves.
I'm sure, dude. I just literally
whoever fell asleep first.
Yeah,
whoever fell asleep first lost. So they just the two of them they stayed
I'm
up
trying to trigger
and-
it because
and
literally
they
I
would
just watched the whole
began
show
hallucinating
2 years ago.
shit.
Yeah,
Like it's super dumb.
but it's
But
funny.
man,
It's
like
innocent funny.
like because
Cat
I
Dog
did
was
that.
another one too. Just saying.
yeah, I did that.
Yeah.
Like me and like I'd stay over
Oh,
at a friend's
dude.
house and we
Oh,
challenged
my
each other
God.
to see who could stay up the latest.
Whoever falls asleep first, I'm gonna pee on him.
Like
Whatever. I mean,
it was just very a much tamer endless ridicule the next day or for the next week or
Yeah.
month or whatever. Like, remember that time you fell asleep, you little pussy.
the time you fell asleep and I shit in your mouth. Ours was always more innocent than that. We do the antiquing thing from Jackass when somebody would fall asleep first with the flour and then squirt them in the face with a water gun when they wake up. Ooh, that was fucking good time, man. Just a face full of fucking yeast.
Yeah, it was just like I don't know. They I feel like they to not to circle it back, but to fucking like they knew kids and not in the darker way.
Yeah.
Like they understood. They like, and I don't know, maybe they do understand now and kids are just dumber than they used to be.
Yeah.
I can't say. All I can say is that like they hit it. They hit it on every aspect. Like there was something for everybody.
It was a huge chunk of what shaped us for sure.
Yeah.
I would say I was more a Nickelodeon kid than I was a Disney kid.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, not that I didn't like some of the Disney stuff, especially even then, but I mean, it wasn't a thing. Like Disney Channel was on, but it was like the programming just wasn't as good.
Disney Channel at the time that we're like at the heyday of Nickelodeon, the chunk specifically the chunk that we're talking about that we're really really diving in on.
Yeah,
the Disney Channel was a paid channel.
Mm-hmm.
Like it wasn't just included in the same package that Nickelodeon was in.
Yeah,
like
but
you'd get the Disney Channel like tacked on with one of like HBO or Showtime or some shit like that.
Yeah,
and like they had, they had this weird like Alice in Wonderland show or whatever.
Yeah,
I was like right after.
I remember that.
It was like right after my dad passed away. Like we just needed as many distractions as possible.
Yeah.
My mother didn't know how to deal with it, so they got more
money. Wasn't really a thing, anymore. Just whatever made you happy.
So for a short time, we had the Disney Channel when I was like real little.
It was weird though, right?
There was nothing on.
Yeah,
it was like the Mickey Mouse Club, that
Mickey Mouse Club,
Alice in Wonderland show, and like, do you remember the Roundhouse?
Yeah.
Was that on the Disney?
That was
Channel?
on Nickelodeon.
That was on Nickelodeon.
That was on
so
Snick, the original version of Snick. Yeah, that was Clarissa Roundhouse, which was the same people that did In Living Color, not Keenan Ivory Wayans and the Wayans brothers, but other people that were involved in it did Roundhouse. Right. But okay, so I was going to say Mickey Mouse Club.
Yeah,
with Annette Funicello, the old school black and white bullshit.
Yeah.
The Alice in Wonderland show, I remember. And then they would do like concerts and shit from Disney, and they would show those. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And it was like I remember when Little Mermaid came out, they had the guy that did Sebastian's voice. He came out and sang all the fucking songs.
Yeah,
that is a vivid fucking memory. And I was like, oh, because at that time, even though I saw Little Mermaid 1,000 times, it was a girl movie, and I wasn't having it. But my sister loved it, so I watched it, and it was on. So I'm, and it's fine now, and it's my wife's favorite movie. So I've seen it 1,000 more times since then.
Nickelodeon.
Ultimately, like the Disney's programming just, like they had a corner on the market of movies.
Stick to that.
But it would be at least like, or not at least, but almost a whole decade before the Disney Channel became anything.
Not until
Like,
what, 2000 maybe?
high school.
Yeah.
Like I was in high school. I think it was weird, and none of my friends could understand it.
No, I couldn't.
But the
And
like,
I'm
but
a couple
I
years younger than you.
I
So I
watched
was
the
in
shit
junior
out of
high.
it. I watched the shit out of it, like in high school. Like, well, like I'd get home from school or whatever. I'd watch Toonami on Cartoon Network, and then I would watch. And then after Toonami was over, I'd go to, or like towards the end of Toonami, there'd be weird shit that I didn't care about. And then I'd go to the Disney Channel and I'd watch Boy Meets World reruns.
Yeah, that's when it was acceptable,
right? And then
you got those ABC reruns, Step by Step.
Yes,
all that shit.
But even in the beginning of Disney Channel, like when it not in the beginning, and when it took off.
Yeah.
So at this time, the time where they were doing they do a 2-hour block of Boy Meets World, and then they'd also have their own originals that were good, like the even Stevens was fine. I
never got into that one.
I thought it was funny.
I did like,
and I had a
field goal kicking, garbage picking Philadelphia phenomenon starring Tony Danza, though. The Disney original movie. Woo!
That was where the
money was.
Yeah.
What was Johnny?
Maybe not in that one in particular, but the once a month they do the Disney Channel original movies.
Yeah. And
in the beginning, they were pretty fucking good.
Wasn't that what it was called? Johnny Tsunami, the kid that surfed or whatever?
Yeah. Johnny Tsunami was one of them, but it was Brink that kicked them off.
Okay.
The extreme sports movies was kicked off by Brink.
Yeah.
Which was funny because that was at the time when like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was like the best game ever made. And there is nothing more.
I might still put it in my top 10, honestly.
Nothing was more divisive than your choice to use a skateboard or rollerblades.
Yep.
Like those two, and that still exists to this day. My wife skates. She did roller derby and stuff like that, but she started doing park skating with quads. Like it became a thing. Like in the last, I mean, I think it's always been a thing, but it like the popularity started to kind of kick up a little bit. When she goes to the skate park with her park skate friends, there's a bunch of skateboarders there, and they're like, "Oh, the fruit booters are here." They're still doing it. They're still
the line is like still drawn.
The wheels strapped to your feet versus the wheels strapped to a board still exists. Anyway, so we're getting off on it. We're talking about an entirely different channel here.
Yeah, it's all right. They go hand in hand.
Nickelodeon,
compare and contrast.
They got it. They got it early. And the idea of them handling their own programming really kind of set them apart, because I honestly have no idea what the fuck Disney was thinking.
Yeah.
In the beginning years, like they were like,
because they didn't even show their good movies.
Right. It's like they didn't. It's like they didn't have the distribution rights. If they had just shown their animated movies on a loop, they would have killed it.
Yeah, but instead they were showing like their old shit with like Kurt Russell in it when he was a kid.
Right.
And like who Old Yeller
in the world like I don't know. That time I wouldn't be surprised if they were run by like somebody that was Walt Disney's assistant in like 1968.
They thought that was acceptable television for children.
Right. We should be like, hey, Kurt Russell, he was your guy. I mean, he's still my guy.
Yeah, he's
but
awesome.
Fucking, I love Kurt Russell, but he like, no, Old Yeller, like all those.
Yeah.
No.
I don't want to watch Old Yeller ever again after seeing it.
You have to, you can't appreciate that shit as a child. Like, even once you are exposed to like the new, you know what I mean? Like, it was, because I can appreciate it all now, and I know plenty of people that loved all that stuff when they were kids. But like, again, like I was talking, I don't remember what episode it was in yet or anymore. Like, it's there. We have now reached a level of our library where I am no longer able to discern between the previous three, unless it's a very specific talking point about baseball, Ninja Turtles, or I can't even remember what.
Yeah,
the
if
second
it's
episode was.
just
Back to
a
the Future.
childhood memory. Yeah,
but I had mentioned, I think it was in the Back to the Future episode. Growing up, because like I still remember the 80s.
Yeah,
like I have I have vivid memories from the 80s. So like that was it. You cannot talk about undeniability. Like the aesthetic of the 80s is undeniable.
Yeah.
It was in your fucking face no matter where you went. It
fucking
was bright,
flashy,
it was colorful.
Even the early 90s though, it was like that.
Well, right. And you always get that bleed over.
Yeah.
But what I mean is that you look at the like in the 80s, you look at stuff from the 70s and you just or the 60s, 50s, whatever, like that weird, like that the sepia tone of westerns, like juxtaposed against the fucking neon lights of anything in the 80s. It's just boring. Like it makes me think of it, like it to compare it to something that I experience now. It's like on a super, super hot day, a super hot Sunday when I had way too much fun on Saturday. Like that's what a sepia tone compared to an 80s aesthetic reminds me of. Just like malaise. So anything starring child actor Kurt Russell in 1991 or 2 was just not going to fly.
No.
And Nickelodeon knew exactly what to do. They had the Nickelodeon logo in neon orange, green slime, fucking like everything looked like a real life cartoon.
Putting out Gak.
Yeah, Gak.
Shit like that.
Fun story. In 1994.
Then we got to wrap this sesh up.
Yeah, I think this is probably a pretty good place to end it.
Let's do it.
1994, on my birthday, we went to see
pinpoint shit here.
I wouldn't remember it if it didn't happen on my birthday.
On your birthday.
Mid-Hudson Civic Center. Home of roughly 50% of the Monday Night Raw tapings up until that point, or roughly around that point. They did a live tour of What Would You Do? Double Dare. They toured the country. They did stage shows.
Yeah, Mark Summer would be there, and the assistant.
It was a live game show.
Yeah.
And it combined the two.
Yeah.
My parents, one of them got the pie pod and the other one got the pie wash.
Nice.
Yeah, we got pulled up. I don't even remember what game we played, but we won.
Hell yeah,
the kids won, and my parents wound up getting the pie pod, the pie wash. It was a wild time.
Damn. Then, I was going to ask you if you ever went to Universal Studios, to the Nickelodeon studio, but I mean, I think that's a better story.
Yeah, like we'd gone to Universal Studios, and for some reason, like we didn't even touch Nickelodeon while we were there. But yeah, we did. That was the thing. Like, and I remember very specifically being up close with Mark Summers, and just like this guy looks very weird. Because they I don't know, they made had all the makeup on him and stuff like that, stage makeup and shit.
He looked like a mime.
He looked like a doll.
Yeah,
it was fucking.
Like a ventriloquist dummy.
It was weird, and that was kind of like it was almost like the bow.
Yeah,
it was like the bow getting wrapped on my experience with Nickelodeon as a child, because after that everything kind of changed. Yeah, like things like after like 94, that's kind of when things started to go and going
to feel a little
too
old for it.
And it was the chunk between that and when I first started imbibing mind-altering substances. That was when I picked it back up.
And probably started looking into ladies at that point too.
Oh, of course, yeah.
All right, on that point, let's Cut it. That was actually the perfect story to end this segment on.